were always...
There was always something coming up that just set
we
us
didn't even
off.
get along. We were like, what are we getting married for?
I think part of the younger couple's problems, they've never had anyone else, and they're very young. And
You've often said yourself, maybe if we had, or, you know, did I marry and we did, you're one person. You people are shaped by each other, huh?
Oh, yeah, you see,
So therefore what?
There's times...
Well, maybe, I don't know how, you know, how the relationship is, but if they're, you know, maybe they need some time away from each other.
Oh, we give ourselves time away. We give, you know, like, Saturday or whatever.
You're 22 years old and you need relief from each other. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I'm here.
You wanted to say?
Yes, you just had, while I was waiting, you had that young couple on, and that's just like us. But we're 23 and 26, and we've been dating since we've been 14 and 16 also.
Yeah.
And it started out real calm and cool and everything, and as it grew older, we've dated 9 years, and then 4 years ago we got married. And we said, oh, we're going to grow together, we're going to be happy and everything. Well, immediately, bang, I got pregnant on our honeymoon. And being pregnant and being your first year of your marriage is just so hard to learn to be married. So we started fighting just from day one. I mean, on our honeymoon, we were fighting. And, you know,
but you didn't know on your honeymoon you were pregnant, did you?
No, we didn't. But, I mean, we were fighting about, should we go on the mountain or should we go down to the pool? I mean, back and forth we were fighting. Yeah. And now we have 2 children, and it's just gotten progressively worse. But, you know, I love him, and I would never divorce him. But, yes, the thought goes through your mind.
What's the thought? Like, you guys saw each other too much? You didn't really give yourself an opportunity to be single and enjoy...
Well, yeah, sometimes I think, well, I should have gone to college. I should have dated around. I should have just given myself a little single time. I look at my friends who got married a year after me, and they're already getting divorced.
Hang on a minute.
Is there any abuse that goes on in your family?
Nobody hits anybody over here.
Oh,
no. And that's true with the caller as well. No abuse, right?
No abuse, none at all. No physical abuse.
Yeah, do you scream and yell? I mean,
yes, sometimes I can say that I feel emotionally abused because, like one of the older couples says, he does berate me and tell me that I can't do this and I can't do that. Probably one of the worst things that he's ever said to me is both of my babies were cesarean, and in the heat of the moment, he told me I could not even have a baby correctly.
That is one of the worst things you could say.
I mean, you know, and he was immediately sorry for that, but it was the heat of the moment. But, you know, it sticks with you. It sticks down deep inside. Because, you know, when you have a baby by cesarean, it's not the same.
Sure. Do you often find, or do you ever find yourself not talking to him?
Never. No, we always talk. He tunes me out a lot, you know, where you have to ask him 3 or 4 times to answer you. What do you want for dinner? When do you want dinner?
That's what I have in my marriage. I'm the one that will be the verbal one, and my husband can just turn me off right away, and that drives me crazy. That even gets me more agitated, more irritated. And after 10 years of marriage, I kind of know how to, I just leave the room. But for the first couple of years, I'm like, aren't you going to fight? Aren't you going to get mad at me? Come on, like duke it out. That's how my family is, but his family is not like that.
We have a psychoanalyst here, Jane Goldberg, PhD. Dr. Goldberg will tell you that the opposite of love is
hate.
No. No, it isn't. The opposite of love is indifference.
Indifference, that's a good, yes.
Am I wrong?
No, you are absolutely right.
I'm telling you, is there anything I don't know? We'll give Dr. Goldberg a chance to get in on this in just a moment. Incidentally, this audience is not necessarily make room for daddy yourself. Here's our survey of this audience. How often do you fight with your spouse? We asked this audience. 42% of you fight weekly. W-E-E-K. 26% of you fight monthly. 23% yearly. Oh, please, go to your room. Cut it out. Oh, well, I can't wait to, obviously,
But what about daily?
I mean,
hourly?
Yeah, how mean-spirited are you with your spouse? Not very, 46%. Those are all men who answered that. Not at all, 39%. Very. Oh, let's talk to those people. Who said very? You're very mean-spirited when you fight. Finally, oh, look at this now. Suddenly you're... Do you threaten your spouse with divorce during your fights?
Yes.
76% said never. I don't believe them. This audience. Is the other audience out
It's
there?
always used as a weapon.
22% said sometimes. 2% said all the time. That's the trump card you play, is it? Caller, you wanted to say.
Hi, Phil.
How you doing?
Did I ever tell you that I think you're the cutest guy I know other than my husband?
I am very flattered. And your husband loves you and you never fight.
Oh, yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, we've been married 6 years. And what I wanted to tell you was that in our first couple years of marriage, we fought like cats and dogs. And
then you got a cat and a dog, and now you don't fight at all. What happened then?
We watched Phil. He taught me a wonderful lesson. There were no drugs, no alcohol, no abuse, no serious problems going on. We were just fighting. And the key to the whole thing is keep your mouth shut. There were no bad problems going on. And
I did that for 10 years.
Keep your mouth shut.
I keep my mouth shut, my husband keeps his mouth shut, and we end up going separate ways, and they were standing there saying, I know what's bothering me, he knows what's bothering him, we don't discuss
it. But then you're going to get an ulcer.
And then, yeah, and it never gets resolved, and then we move on to the next one. And that's the way it just...
See, we've often done that.
Hang on 1 second.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but so far we have a man who doesn't pick up his underwear. We have somebody who leaves hair on the bathroom floor. I don't call these problems. These are just, look, I mean, you don't even know what problems.
I think one thing, if everyone would just like this lady said, clean up after their own self, that would solve part of the problem. The other part of the problem, each adult needs their own space.
Well, what does that mean?
Okay, well, like for instance, my house, I have my space. My husband has his own space, and he can do what he wants to in his little room. He has his computer and all his other junk. And then I have my thing.
I have my Nintendo. It's in the basement, and there are no problems at all. Incidentally, just show them the stats, Brian. What is the average age for the first marriage of men in 1992? 26. That's interesting, isn't it? Hasn't changed much, has it? Women are waiting 2 more years in the last 10 years. Look at how much earlier it was in 1960. Next slide. The number of marriages in the United States. We are getting married. I'll tell you, we're the most marrying people in the world. Look at this. We are, but look at the last decade. It hasn't changed that much. Next slide. Roughly 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Oh, you're so smart, this audience. Average length of marriage that ends in divorce? 7.1 years. And 2/3 of marriages that end in divorce last less than 10 years. Thank you for that. This is interesting. How often do you... Well, you've already done that. Yes, you wanted to say.
So far, what I'm hearing is not that bad. You've had a lot worse couples on the show. and they stay together. I think with a little guidance and a little therapy, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry, but we've already had one woman stand up and said, lose the guy.
You know what? We went to marriage counseling before our children were born, and the counselor told me to divorce him. And and I would be a very sad woman had I done that.
Are you there, caller? Hi, I'm glad you waited.
Hi, I've been married for 5 years. I adore my husband, but we do fight a lot. We really do. And the problem is we fight in front of the child, and we have a 2-year-old, and he screams a lot, the baby. So I'm scared that he's learning from my husband.
He is.
And I don't know what to do about it. I try to get him to calm down, but he doesn't.
Yeah, how long have you been married?
Almost 5 years.
Do you love your husband?
I adore him. I really
him.
do. And he loves me very much, but he is very picky, and he's very, very...
What was the last thing you fought about or over?
Actually, this morning we just fought about that. I went to the doctor this morning, and he got angry at me that I hadn't told him that I was going to the doctor.
And when he gets angry, he just raises his voice and he's critical of you.
Yeah, he says, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to the doctor?" I said, "I didn't know I was going to the doctor this morning. I just found out."
Yeah, does he pout or what?
No, he gets very angry. He
loud voice.
Yeah, well, he screams. When he gets home, he screams. He was at the office, so he couldn't yell, but he does scream a lot.
So he brings it home and screams when he gets home?
Yeah, and he does scream a lot in front of the baby.
Oh, let's talk to those people. Who said very? You're very mean-spirited when you fight. Finally, oh, look at this now. Suddenly you're... Do you threaten your spouse with divorce during your fights?
Yes.
76% said never. I don't believe me. This audience. Is the other audience out
It's
there?
always used as a weapon.
22% said sometimes. 2% said all the time. That's the trump card you play, is it? Caller, you wanted to say.
Hi, Phil.
How you doing?
Did I ever tell you that I think you're the cutest guy I know other than my husband?
I am very flattered. And your husband loves you and you never fight.
Oh, yeah, we did. As a matter of fact, we've been married 6 years. And what I wanted to tell you was that in our first couple years of marriage, we fought like cats and dogs. And
then you got a cat and a dog, and now you don't fight at all. What happened then?
We watched Phil. He taught me a wonderful lesson. There were no drugs, no alcohol, no abuse, no serious problems going on. We were just fighting. And the key to the whole thing is keep your mouth shut. There were no bad problems going on. And
I did that for 10 years.
Keep your mouth shut.
I keep my mouth shut, my husband keeps his mouth shut, and we end up going separate ways, and they were standing there saying, I know what's bothering me, he knows what's bothering him, we don't discuss it.
But then you're going to get an ulcer.
And then, yeah, and it never gets resolved, and then we move on to the next one. And that's the way it just
See, we've often done that.
Hang on 1 second.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but so far we have a man who doesn't pick up his underwear. We have somebody who leaves hair on the bathroom floor. I don't call these problems. These are just, I mean, you don't even know what problems.
I think one thing, if everyone would just like this lady said, clean up after their own self, that would solve part of the problem.
Exactly what I told her.
The other part of the problem, each adult needs their own space.
Well, what does that mean?
Okay, well, like for instance, my house, I have my space. My husband has his own space, and he can do what he wants to in his little room. He has his computer and all his other junk.
What do you do
and then I have my thing.
I have my Nintendo. It's in the basement, and there are no problems at all. Incidentally, just show them the stats, Brian. What is the average age for the first marriage of men in 1992? 26. That's interesting, isn't it? Hasn't changed much, has it? Women are waiting 2 more years in the last 10 years. Look at how much earlier it was in 1960. Next slide. The number of marriages in the United States. We are getting married. I'll tell you, we're the most marrying people in the world. Look at this. We are, but look at the last decade. It hasn't changed that much. Next slide. Roughly 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Oh, you're so smart, this audience. Average length of marriage that ends in divorce? 7.1 years. And 2/3 of marriages that end in divorce last less than 10 years. Thank you for that. This is interesting. How often do you, well, you've already done that. Yes, you wanted to say.
So far, what I'm hearing is not that bad. You've had a lot worse couples on the show, and they stay together. I think with a little guidance and a little therapy, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry, but we've already had one woman stand up and said, lose the guy.
Oh, you know
No,
what?
I don't
We went
think
to marriage
so.
counseling before our children were born, and the counselor told me to divorce him. And and I would be a very sad woman had I done that.
Are you there, caller? Hi, I'm glad you waited.
Hi. I've been married for 5 years. I adore my husband, but we do fight a lot. We really do. And the problem is we fight in front of the child, and we have a 2-year-old, and he screams a lot, the baby. So I'm scared that he's learning from my husband.
He is.
And I don't know what to do about it. I try to get him to calm down, but he doesn't.
Yeah, how long have you been married?
Almost 5 years.
Do you love your husband?
I adore him. I
Adore
really do. And he loves me very much,
Yeah.
but he is very picky, and he's very, very...
What was the last thing you fought about or over?
Actually, this morning we just fought about that. I went to the doctor this morning, and he got angry at me that I hadn't told him that I was going to the doctor.
And when he gets angry, he just raises his voice and he's critical of you.
Yeah, he says, why didn't you tell me you were going to the doctor? I said, I didn't know I was going to the doctor this morning. I just found out.
Yeah, does he pout or what?
No, he gets very angry. He
Loud voice.
Yeah, well, he screams. When he gets home, he screams. He was at the office, so he couldn't yell. But he does scream a lot.
So he brings it home and screams when he gets home?
Yeah, and he does scream a lot in front of the baby.
Yeah.
And I
got to give the doctor here a chance. Listen, we've heard so much neurosis here. Fix this.
I think the audience is more neurotic than the couples we have.
I So let's switch. Now, if you'll all just take, we can, what? You know, look, you people need help. Yes, you do. You're neurotic. You need to see a shrink.
We say it the way it is. We don't go.
I think the audience lied about how often they fight. These couples represent typical examples of how often people fight, what they fight about, and how they fight. Everybody that's married gets married for the wrong reason. Everybody that's married fights for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Just about everybody.
This audience thing, you're putting on this big show for all the neighbors. We got you. We know you. You're gonna go.
I didn't put the VCR on. That's why I'm mad.
Yeah. And we'll be back in just a moment.
I was tall and slender up until I had my first child. I was engulfed.
What's the difference, Dr. Goldberg? You know, you say if you don't fight, you really are. And there are people who go through life,
who don't fight.
Don't even talk, Pass the salt. But fighting what is still, it's a sign of...
It's abnormal to not have negative feelings. And in our intimate relationships, the most intense negative feelings are going to be aroused. These couples could do better. They probably could fight more fairly. They probably could fight over less trivial things. In a marital relationship, you're going to have a lot of negative feelings. You're going to fight a lot if you're going to be honest about what you're feeling.
Are you there, caller?
When you say, did you say less trivial?
Hello?
Yes, you wanted to say.
Is it me?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay. First of all,
I think it's you. I don't know. Check the mirror.
Well, I think you have the best.
Hey, yeah, you wanted to say briefly, and then I'll get you in here. Go ahead, caller.
Okay. I don't believe you got the right people for this show today. These people is not serious about what they're talking. I don't believe they're unhappy. All right?
Well,
you have the best show,
but let me... the audience, and we'll get the right people. Why do you say that, caller?
Because they're not serious about it. They're laughing. I don't believe they're saying they're happy. They'll never get a divorce. I have been married for 36 years.
People are fighting very seriously. It doesn't matter whether you're fighting over a child who's been run over by a car. It doesn't matter whether you're fighting over the kind of coffee you drink in the morning. What you're always fighting about is the same thing, and that is that you want the other person to be different than who they are.
I do understand the woman's observation. I also understand the behavior of the guests. I mean, they don't want to come out here with, a bayonet in their teeth. This is not funny for them when this is happening, and it is, as we understand it, a rather chronic feature of these relationships. Yes, you wanted to get in, Jim. You've been trying. Please.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say something about the kids because we've got, 3 kids, 1, 2, and 4, and so we argue and we fight, but sometimes we try and keep it toned down, when we're with the kids because we think it's between us usually, and we deal with the kids afterwards, and that's really important because that's real.
Maurice.
I think compatibility is the name of the game. So I resisted being married for a long time because I thought it was just like not for me. And then I ended up marrying Beth, and on the one hand, we love each other a lot. On the other hand, we're really not the most compatible people. So the issues that just drive me crazy are really natural to her.
I think we're very compatible. We happen to have arguments. I think everybody argues, but when you say to me, like, well, I really don't know if we're compatible or if we ever should have gotten married, I think everybody has arguments.
Well, I think
just
when I say compatible, I mean, like, for example, I'm into fitness, etc., etc. Beth is now working out after a lot of pushing and prodding on my part.
6 to 7 days a week.
I go out and
but that's because I want to.
After fighting.
But that's because I want to.
You don't have sex. Sex is usually better in couples that fight than it is when couples don't fight. If there's no fighting, there's no communication, which means that there's not going to be a sexual relationship.
Well, anyway, with regard to, we do okay in that department. But
no fighting, no sex. Hang on just a minute. What do you mean, no?
To argue so you can make up. That's the best part of relationship. Making up.
All right, yeah. You wanted to say here.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think a certain amount of fighting could be healthy for communication, and that one of the problems with marriages today is that I see, even though I'm not married, I live with someone, is people have 4 years living with someone.
4 years?
I think a lot of people have
So get married already. What are you waiting for?
graduation from nursing school. I think a lot of people go into marriage thinking it's going to be all happy and there's going to be no arguments. And then when the arguing and normal day miscommunication between people happens, they don't want to work at it. They don't accept it as part of what marriage is.
Is this the man in your life forever and ever?
Possibly.
4 years, but you still haven't, not quite, maybe, could be. You're happy, he's a nice guy, he loves you, you love him.
I was always raised that I should get my career first, and when I graduate from nursing school, then I'll make that decision.
Then you'll dump him.
No.
No.
I love him.
All right, okay, hang on. Yes.
Hi, Phil. I was just wondering, it seems I'm single, and it seems like some people think your problems are really petty, but they seem really important to you guys. Would you recommend that before you get married, you live together to see if you get along, if you're compatible, really?
Most of together.
I definitely would.
We lived together, and we saw a therapist before we got married because I was pregnant at the time, and I didn't just want to get married because I was pregnant, and I didn't want him to marry me just because I was pregnant, and, you know, it got to the point that, hey, we got married.
Make your point about the love and hate is not the opposite. You know, I was showing off there at the beginning of the program, but this is an important point.
Love and hate come from the same part of the brain. When you are in love with somebody, you're emotionally involved with them. And when you hate somebody, you're extremely emotionally involved with them. When you're indifferent, you don't care. There's no emotional involvement. But Phil, I want to make another point.
See what I mean here? She's back now, 21 years, the same guy, third marriage, you're happy now, finally got it right, and look at how happy you are, and you want to disagree with this doctor? You don't know what you're talking about. You're not a PhD.
I need to retract this whole thing that I said earlier.
You don't want them to get divorced now?
No, because that's right, I don't. I think if I had heard earlier what I know now,
so you made a snap judgment like the marriage counselor they
That's
thought.
true. I thought they hated each other. To me, hate is very, very hard to deal with. I was misleading. I thought they
so
hated.
tell them you're sorry.
No, please don't listen to anything I say.
And we'll be back in just a moment.
When a dog is about 7 years old, his nutritional needs...
Waited, you're happily married, you never fight with your husband, and, hello?
Not true, but I'm 24 years old. I've lived with my boyfriend for 2 years, but we've been friends since we were 12.
Well, that's not unlike, excuse the interruption, Shannon and James here.
Right, which is why I called. I think what's really important is that we're able to overcome the hair on the floor argument, which I guarantee you we always have, because we're able to look at each other and say that we've taken care of each other and respected each other and had trust in each other for so long that, you know, my grandmother, who's been married forever, once said to me, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to look around for the person that balanced their checkbook the best or, you know, had the best looking hair in the morning. You look for the person who stood by you for a long time and cares about you the most. And I think that you have to,
Your grandma's getting a hand here.
Well, she should. She's a great lady.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I mopped to the floor this afternoon and picked up 6 pair of socks, and if he had been home, I would have kicked him right in the rear end. But, you know, it's 2 hours later, and I'm over it. And that's, you have to look at the long run. And this show is important because the little arguments do accumulate, and they are why my friends are getting divorced.
Yeah. You're 24 and you have friends getting divorced.
Oh, yeah.
Right. What is, your husband then has been known to leave his socks on the floor?
He picks up nothing, but I knew he was a slob when I moved in with him.
Right,
I mean,
but what do you do that bugs him?
I clean too much, I guess. I mean, you know, he says to me, why is it so important to you to have this perfectly clean environment? You know, we could be taking a walk in the park, and a lot of times I throw the mop down and we go take a walk in the park because I realize that, you know, sometimes he's right about
Have you ever had a silence, you know, like you haven't talked for a couple days?
Honestly, no, we haven't. And I really credit that with the fact that we've known each other so long.
Right. You're both working outside the home?
Yeah.
And you're going to get married?
Yeah.
And you want to have a baby?
Yeah.
I think the baby was very healthy for our marriage. I know a lot of people at the beginning of the show, they were, oh, you know, like you got married because you were pregnant. We didn't get married because we were pregnant. We got married because we wanted to marry each other. You know, and I think that sometimes...
Dr. Goldberg, please.
I worry most of all about the couples that get married because they're in love.
You do? Tell me why. Now that you've insulted the audience, you were fibbing on that survey. Huh? Listen, you think we were born yesterday? What? You were, what? You're what?
We're society.
Yeah, but your society's not telling us the truth.
But we don't like to admit it.
That's
growing
right.
Up,
all right.
Growing up,
we have all been inculcated with the idea that we're not supposed to have these feelings towards the people we love. And if we do, there's something wrong with us or something wrong with the relationship.
I mean, when that paper came around, I'm sure you could have looked at everybody going, I was asking questions. Now, what does this mean, you know?
If you were afraid that somebody'd see it's personal.
Oh, it was personal, but I mean, growing up, I know my parents, I mean, I wonder to this day, they were married 37 years before my mom died, and I was wondering, would they still have been married? Because in that day, you didn't divorce.
Right.
Now I find I'm married 10 years, and I have a lot of friends that are divorced, and I find at a drop of a hat, they're like, well, that's it. I've had my, that's it. I'm tired of it.
Until you get divorced. I mean, you don't want to get divorced, though.
Yeah. I interrupted you, though, when you were making a point.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Why I worry about couples that are in love.
Yes.
Because being in love is an unambivalent state, and it is the nature of human beings to be ambivalent, to have positive feelings and negative feelings. So when you're in love, you're idealizing the person, and you are getting married without knowing what it is that you're doing and without knowing whom it is that you're marrying.
Yeah, but it's so neat. Oh, baby, I can't live without you.
It's wonderful.
Huh?
It's wonderful.
But it's a temporary insanity.
Yes.
In my first, during my first marriage, when things started to get tough, I thought, this is working, I don't want to work, and he said, I'm out of here, we're not going to work. Jim and I work at it all the time, and the more we work, the more in love we are, and the more we grow, and the more we work, and the more we fight, and the more we work.
And we'll be back. I'll give you a chance, Maurice, in just a moment.
Good afternoon. Straight ahead today, News 4 New York at 5 o'clock. From sugar daddy to real life daddy. Marla Maples is having a baby and says Donald is the father. We'll have a live report. Plus, Amy Fisher's father arrives on Long Island to talk to that grand jury considering sex charges against Joey Buttafuoco.
Meningitis closes a New Jersey school. We'll have the latest details, and we'll tell you why you may not want to drink milk if the government...
Interesting, because she's saying don't be frightened about this. It's there, and the positive role of our negative feelings, anger, jealousy, and hate. It goes with the human condition. Are you there, caller?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband and I, we argue all the time, and we argue about things you can't even change. Like, we got married, like, both late in life. I was, like, 33. He was, like, 40. Neither one of us had ever been married. And he grew up in the country, and I grew up in the city, and when we got married the first year we lived in the city, he would argue with me about the houses being too close to one another. He would argue with me he didn't want to go out on the porch because there were people. I mean, it was things that I couldn't even change, and I would say, hey, well, what do you want me to do about these things? I can't. So after a year, he moved out to the country, and I live in the city, and we're still married, and we get together about once or twice a week, and when we call each other every day on the phone, we argue on the phone. We argue about income tax. We argue about things not being cleaned. We argue all the time.
Most of our audience does not like this idea.
Why? We've been doing it for 9 years, and we're happy.
You're happy.
At least 8 of the 9.
When was the last day you saw him?
Today. He left this morning.
Yeah.
And
well, you don't have to sound that bright about it.
Work is not that they're physically separated. What makes that marriage work now is that they have given up on the idea of changing one another.
Yeah, that's definite. I don't even try anymore, and he doesn't try with me. I would clean the house, and he'd say I'm doing everything wrong. I would, like, mop the floor. In his house, he doesn't even own a mop. It has to be done on your hands and knees.
Yeah, I know. Then the rug starts to move all by itself when the...
Hey, when the people come to our house out in the country, he makes the people take their shoes off. He won't even let them walk on the carpet.
Yeah, well, that saves on the vacuum cleaner bags.
Everything we have in our house is, like, 45 years old.
When will you next see him, then?
Sunday. I'll drive out there on Sunday, and we'll be together Sunday for Easter.
And you've been doing this for...
8 of the 9 years we've been married, because the first year we lived together.
And you love him.
Oh, dear, I wouldn't give him up for anything in the world.
Now, will you call him this evening?
Oh.